called the Protected series. So I actually took two of our kind of vulnerable cultures. One is the Navajo and one is our Black culture. So here I have a little Navajo boy that is being protected because during COVID, the Dene Navajo people, as you remember, lost a lot of people right off the bat. They just lost so many people to COVID. And so I worked with tags a lot over the years because tags I've used as a kind of extension of like the idea of a milagro, you know, the healing and the protection and so forth. So that's why I use these tags that I actually drew this child on here and then, you know, put the shield on her to kind of conceptually protect the Dene Navajo people. This piece, I also was thinking about, you know, the civil rights movement, and during the desegregation movement in the 1950s, I think it might have been 1953, I was like 3 years old. Ruby Bridges, as you remember, was the first child that walked into an incredibly hostile, toxic environment as a child. And so I actually did a drawing of Ruby Bridges, and again put her on a tag and then put a protective shield on her because she represents, you know, and it's all like kind of back again because, you know, racism has become vogue over the last 10 years and now it's like in full bloom. So I wanted to have her protected and all the people, you know, that have to experience such things. So that's what this piece is about, and it's called Ruby Bridges. I did a series of about 40 drawings where I wanted to just do line. No shading, no, you know, sometimes I just want to just do the economy of, like how poets will do economy of words. I wanted to just do line. And so I just picked two that are part of like the series of 40 drawings, and this one is called Oh No You Didn't. And this one is called I'm Watching You. So I just wanted to kind of put them up because I thought it was timely. Because right now it's a very, oh no, you didn't time. So this one really kind of addresses, again, the window which I talked about. You know, the idea that we have to kind of remain open but also clear in terms of where we're going. But then there's life, you know, life happens. There's a phone, and then like I even have these little color rolls, which are the nylons that, you know, I found these little miniature things, and then I just sort of occupied spaces with tools that I use, drawing book, pencils, pliers. And so really it's the idea that, you know, we have a space that's waiting to have a story and a purpose. And so, you know, I think if I could ever do a workshop with children, I would have a bunch of little chairs and then let them like occupy it with like things that they would like to do. You know, everybody knows A Wizard of Oz. There were two favorite moments. One was when Toto pulled back the curtain and the man was back there, and then they were saying, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, which is like what we're living like right now. And I thought, you know, truth and exposure. But then the other part was at the end where the young woman was told, you've always had the power. So she did this whole journey, picking up friends that were kind of broken and needing help too, and then really in the end he said, you've always had the power. So that's what these are called, is you've always had the power. So I made these, and I actually, when I got married, I actually wore them. So my dress was white, and I picked up the dress and had the little ruby slippers underneath, so those are there. These I made, I had an ofrenda that I was asked to do actually on this wall some years ago. And this was the time when, missing and murdered was a big, it continues to be a big and important issue for me. But this was the year when the children were being separated from their parents at the border. And we were all horrified. And we all felt it in our heart center. And so I decided at that time that I did an installation that had red shoes that marked the missing and murdered women. But I also had all of these tiny little shoes that represented all the children, and some of them as small as this, that were separated from their parents, and that are probably many of them still separated, and some of them were trafficked. So these little shoes are cute, but they also represent that sort of really inhumane situation where they were ripped out of their parents' arms. I work with Carnival on the stage, and each year they have a theme, our indigenous roots. This year it'll be our African roots. And so all of these patterns were things that I've worn for a different ceremony or occasion. So I decided that I would share that thread as part of the exhibit, since it took a long time to make these. And so this, really honors our indigenous roots. And so all the pieces, everything, with the exception of those shoes. Like when it's on me, it goes down to the floor, but she's a lot taller than I am, so it looks a little bit different. But that's what this represents. And I also really like to pay attention to the back of things, and so I really spend a lot of time really working on the back and then making the headgear. I think it was a year before I made this, and it really dealt with kind of like, for those of us that are Mexican, but then, a lot of other different nations in Latin America, the whole colonial conquest really messed with our whole sense of identity and who we are in the world, so that whole colonial construct was so hard. So, like when you look at, let's say, the roses and all of that, that's very much like colonial. But at the same time, I wanted to put in here, because it deals with duality, our duality. And we have to sort of embrace the fact that we have the colonial part as part of our life, but we also are indigenous. And so I was able to find these that are feathers. And so this very intentionally was put on here to represent our indigenous wisdom, and then also the butterfly. And so that's what this piece is about. But I also like to have a little fun, because whenever I do things, I like to have always a little bit of red, as it just, it all has to do with what that little powerful little red thing, the little red patent leather shoe thing I told you about earlier. This piece is called Alignment. I made the hat. It was this kind of white stuff that kind of could stretch, but then I sprayed it black and then added all the pieces to it and made this. But this piece I recently created because it really has to do with alignment. To be a person, a human being in alignment, you go through some stages of knowledge. So, from recognizing to remembering to having insight, to imagine, to envision, to illuminate, to clarify. And then basically it goes on and on, where it becomes to be a choice, to navigate, to manifest. And this was really to acknowledge sort of our journey as human beings in this life, to align with nature, align with what our purpose is, to basically just have some alignment. And the way that our society is constructed, it doesn't really want you to have that agency. And so you have to really work still within that construct, but at the same time, continually be trying to develop who you are, so that you can be a fully manifest human being, hopefully at the end of your journey in this manifestation, this life. So that's what this piece is about. I think this was about the time that the election ended, and I think a lot of us just went, just turn off everything. And because, I just was really not happy. But I also don't like to remain in that space, so I realized that, yes, I wear gloves a lot because it's cool here in San Francisco and my hands get cold. And so I thought, wear gloves. So I ordered a dozen gloves and proceeded to start actually doing pieces, because that's a way that if I can give myself a respite, that I kind of process navigating through challenging times. So this piece acknowledges the missing and murdered, which, that it's still, femicide still continues all over the world. This one is called Knowledge to Wisdom, so you can see that I include the tags here again. And then also I added these words that are affirmation words, like imagine, believe, trust, inspire. And then also, this kind of pays homage to the Make Things New mural. That was the title of the mural series I did. So it was within this palette, and I used butterflies. So this one is called Make New. This one is called Full Moon. And I just basically was allowing myself to have a little fun. This one is called Truth. And this one is called Transformation. And this one is called Summer and Spring. And then that just reminded me of youth. Like little girls that are, I don't know, just reminded me of youth, so I called it youth. But basically, it was just a way to just kind of process things, but then come out with some pieces that still had messages, some of them serious and some of them more light. I just wanted to bring these pieces in just to kind of give a sense of, there's kind of like a thread in my work, but also, Alma keeps reappearing in all her ways. And, Alma meaning, like your soul. It's like, like I said at the beginning, when I started looking at my work over time, that I realized it's always been about becoming. And, you don't really arrive, and that's not a bad thing. It's like you're just always unfolding. So I hope that, when young people come through, or elders, or people that are doing life changes, or children, that they realize that first of all they're honored, and at the same time, if they can just tap the things that they came in this life to do, and just sort of set a course of just becoming, that's really all we can ask of them. So thank you.